Hi, I'm Roberta Baskin, and it is a joy to welcome all of you. I have George Dionne, who is the Aim2Flourish Professor and Ambassador for Latin America, and Megan Buchter, who's the Fowler Center Director at the Weatherhead School of Business at Case Western Reserve University. And we want to share Aim2Flourish with you, which is a program that we have been working on with passion for the last 5 years. And just to give you a little bit of an intro, back at the end of 2014, we were all participating in the 4th Global Forum at Case Western Reserve University. And I co-facilitated what we called a mini design summit with Professor David Cooperrider, who is the father of appreciative inquiry. And David and I were cooking up this idea of what would it look like to find and amplify stories about business for good, which was a very kind of 180 for me, because all of my professional career, I had been an investigative reporter reporting on companies doing bad things. So this was like a new way of thinking, and a much more fun way of thinking, actually. So George was in the room. I think there were George, maybe 65, 70 people with us, would you guess?
Something like that.
Yeah, and we were designing and imagining what the world could look like if we could find all of these amazing stories about what businesses were doing to help make the world a better place. And it was very exciting. It was very sort of a grassroots thing, but we had people from all over the world, also really smart people. And at the end of it, we were really pretty jazzed. And one of the people in the room invited us to keep cooking the idea and to come to the UN in June 2015 and tell us what we had found. So I kind of barred the door, if I remember correctly, and said, nobody leaves the room until I have 20 volunteers. And George was one of the first hands to fly up and say, yeah, let's do this thing. And so we started meeting, and I think we had maybe, 6 to 10 professors
And students.
involved with us. Yeah, from Mexico to Indonesia and China and
France.
Yeah, and France, yes. And
Right.
of course, America. So we kept designing and cooking up, and then we came up with the idea of aim to flourish. I mean, what a wonderful concept. Don't we all aim to flourish? We were a bit ahead of our time because we were doing all of this really virtually. We were thinking virtually at that time about how can we teach. But at the same time, we were thinking about how to get students out of the classroom. Right. To meet with business leaders who they admired, and to do that research and come up with these examples. And then the wildest idea of all, really, was to use the UN Sustainable Development Goals before they were even voted on. We just said, yeah, this is what has to happen for the world by 2030. So we met at the UN, and George, you didn't even have a class that time. So you kind of went door to door and found students to do an independent study. Tell us what you found.
Well, I found, it comes to mind, one of a professor friend, Maru, offered that I go to a couple of her classes and talked about Aim2Flourish, and she had students from different disciplines, and I just asked for volunteers to go out and find stories. So we had to have a small orientation session with them, and then just to go out and look for stories. And I was kind of nervous. I said, gee, where are they going to get them? They're going to come back and ask me, where do I go? But they came up with these great stories that eventually got published, written by them. They interviewed the business person, and some of the first stories on the Aim2Flourish platform. I remember one of the students as studying psychology. And one of the things that he said after he had written up the story, after he had interviewed the business person, said, "Hey, I never imagined that business could be like this." It just opened up a new world for him, even as a psychologist, even as his services as a psychologist, to do business and to do good, and that the business do well,
That you can do good and do well. And Megan, one of the things that the Fowler Center for Business as an Agent of World Benefit is so known for is appreciative inquiry. And funny story there is in David Cooperrider's first certification class for appreciative inquiry, which is strength-based thinking about, if you're going to do a strategic planning for the Fowler Center, instead of what people normally do, what I would certainly normally do in the past, let's talk about all the problems. We have all these problems. Of course, if you have a conversation about all the problems, you're going to be pretty depressed at the end of the day and have a lot of problems to think about. But strength-based is looking at what works, what's the most exciting, inspirational day that you've ever had, and who is there, and what happened, and how can you have more of that. And I think I'm the only person who's had to take the certification twice because I needed a tune-up after a while to get back into that strength-based thinking. But Megan, talk a little bit about, that experience, the experiential learning that students have in terms of the kinds of questions that they ask using appreciative inquiry.
Yeah, so Aim2Flourish incorporates appreciative inquiry through the interviews that students do. So when they go out and interview a business leader or social entrepreneur or somebody working at a company that really inspires them, they use a set of questions that do focus on the company's strengths, that ask questions like, tell me about a high point story while you were developing this innovation and what inspired you to create this innovation. And I think that the most impactful outcome of that is that students can then see themselves as these leaders. They can see themselves becoming the entrepreneurs, becoming these business leaders because of the way that they've asked these questions, because of the stories that they're being told. So having a company or working at a company that's doing good and doing well seems very achievable when you ask questions like that and focus on your strengths.
I'm curious about, what's some of the feedback that each of you have gotten from students about what this experience, how it may have changed the trajectory of their careers even? What comes to mind?
Well, I think, that's one of the big ones that we do here. So some of my favorite student experience quotes have to do with students saying that they now want to work for a company or start a company that they would see being able to be profiled on Aim2Flourish. And so, to me, that touches my heart. We have this program that students participate in, and they someday want to be a part of organizations that would then have stories on Aim2Flourish.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm curious, before hearing George's version of what feedback he's getting from students, I'm curious, Megan, for you, in terms of how getting certified in appreciative inquiry changed how you think in terms of running the Fowler Center.
So it's all about really focusing on strengths and focusing on possibilities. And so when I look at, what the Fowler Center is and what we can be, like you mentioned before, instead of thinking, okay, here's a problem, here's a problem, here's a problem, it's what do we have as a group? What kind of strengths do I bring to the table? Does my team bring to the table? And how do we use those strengths to to craft and co-create the kind of activities and the kind of programs that we're going to produce at the Fowler Center? And one of those is Aim2Flourish. We do other programming, but Aim2Flourish is really our most global program. And so, George is part of my team. I have students that help with this team. And we're always thinking, how can we make this better, use our strengths to really make this program applicable to all of the professors and universities around the world that use it on a regular basis.
I think that our idea, our concept of the Sustainable Development Goals being what is really like the world's to-do list for 2030, that this is what has to happen to create the kind of world that we all want. When we embraced them, big hug for the SDGs, we didn't know at that time that they would be unanimously voted on, unanimously approved by all 193 nations that are part of the General Assembly at the UN. But everybody understood, I mean, to really study them, which is what we're asking students to do, and to embrace them in their lives and in the businesses that they either create or go into. This is what has to happen. I mean, it's about ending poverty, about equality for all, about climate action, about peace and justice, really creating the world that we all want. And we are a bit behind in achieving the SDGs. We only have less than 10 years now to get the work done. But so it's very aspirational. But these students who go through the Aim2Flourish program are really learning about why this needs to happen and thinking about what they can do to help make it happen. So I have to ask both of you, I have to spring this on you. Do either of you have a favorite global goal?
So before I tell you my favorite global goal, I just want to add that, I love using the UN global goals for the Aim2Flourish program, because not only does it really unify the world around the global goals, so it gives students, no matter what country they're in, no matter what business school they're attending, this foundation or this aspect of something that unifies us all. We're all striving to achieve the UN global goals, but it also makes the idea of business for good very tangible, saying these are 17 different ways that business can be an agent of world benefit, or business can do good and do well. And so students can look at these 17 global goals and say, okay, these are some that are my favorite, or these are some that I feel passionate about, and how can I go out and find a business that, meets one or more of these goals? Gosh, there are so many.
So what's your favorite?
If you have a favorite. So I do usually say that one of my favorites is global goal number 12, responsible consumption and production, because I think that we spend a lot of money, every day as humans, and you should be really care about where you're spending your money. And so I see, global goal number 12 as being conscientious about, what kind of products are you purchasing? What kind of products are you producing as a company? So that is one of my favorites, but I have a lot of favorites.
No, that's a beautiful one, Megan. And George, have you got a favorite?
Oh, yeah. And it kind of evolves, it kind of migrates. But let me just say one thing first. When I connect with a particular story that a student has written, and I read it, as an editor, and I connect with that goal that is living as a living story from what the students wrote about this business and this person. So I kind of fall in love with the different goals as they come to life through stories.
They're like your children. You don't have a favorite.
Well, I do. And I see it in all of them. And that's goal 16, peace.
Yeah.
I'm a peacemaker. I'm a wannabe peacemaker. I'm in small ways and through Aim2Flourish. And I see how business are doing things well, including everybody, all stakeholders, creating a sense of connection, of diversity, of acceptance, of tolerance. I see goal 16 permeating in all of the goals. And living in Mexico, and very aware of what's happening all around Latin America and the world, how peace is. I want more stories of business contributing, creating peace and harmony around themselves in that community by having a good business that's working well and nobody left behind.
Yes. That is beautiful. And that was in the UN's press release, actually. That was sort of like the bottom line is, okay, we've got these 17 global goals and all of them add up to leave no one behind.
Que nadie quede fuera. I love that. I love that. So I have that in my mind, in my heart as we do this work, and it inspires me.
Well, I have to share my favorite one also. and like you, George, it kind of, they change. I'm very focused on Goal 13, climate action, and doing everything that I can in my life to try to, get us to a point where we're not, where we don't have runaway climate change. But really, right. The one that I would say is closest to my heart is Goal 17, which is, really, the partnerships for the goals. So I think about the need to collaborate in every way, that it's more of an old model in a way, an old paradigm of competition. But I really love the idea of honoring that aspect of let's all join hands and work together. This you can't do it alone. So what kinds of partnerships and collaborations can we do to achieve these goals? Okay, so what's your story?
Well, there you go.
Many stories. In fact, let me just say, the last time I looked, 2,769 stories written by students all over the world about businesses that are helping to achieve the global goals. Wow.
Oh, yeah. And they're all winners. I love to celebrate all of them, the experience, the interview, and getting the story out. And I'll just mention quickly that we just had an interview a couple of weeks ago with an ex-member of the FARC, a guerrilla group that was
in Colombia.
in Colombia, and talking about how the peace process and 13,500 combatants turning in their guns, and he is now creating a startup business, and it's doing well. In that area of where the conflict was for so long, to reconstruct the social fabric and give work to people. And it's not that's another story of peace and how business can contribute.
Well, you, the peacemaker, George, one of the things that you began early on as a kind of ambassador in Latin America was to hold these meetings with schools across Latin America to help them understand the global goals and appreciative inquiry and this curriculum that we designed that is the first curriculum to teach the Sustainable Development Goals to students in higher education. So, what did you learn? What kind of feedback did you get from professors as you, and what kind of challenges did you have with professors in terms of, evolving Aim to Flourish?
Maria Emilia Correa, the co-founder of Sistema B, the B Corp in Latin America, well, she actually got in contact with you first. You put her in contact with me around 2016. And again, she just found that Sistema B and Aim to Flourish could do things together, that spirit of collaboration. And that's been going on. So we've had very fortunate to have the contact with the Academia B, which is the academic arm of the Sistema B and B Corp, and I've had these events together with students and business people. And let me tell you the latest, and one of the difficulties or the challenge that I've had was the language. to get to get people over the hurdle of publishing in English, and also looking for ways to and Aim2Flourish now you can publish in multiple languages, and then it can be translated into English, and getting the spirit of these original dialogues in the interview. And let me just tell you that Brazil is translating as we speak the material to have all the basic material to capture all of the Sistema B, the B Corps in Brazil, and publish them on Aim2Flourish. So it's like a marriage made.
How many businesses is that?
Oh, in Latin America, well,
it keeps growing. I know.
It's just always growing. It's like around 3,000 around the world or more, or 4,000. Right. But in Latin America, I'm not sure, but it'd be close to 1,000.
This is a perfect segue, George, into remembering that Bart Houlihan, who is one of the co-founders of the B Corp movement, and the B Corp movement, of course, is really important in terms of thinking beyond just what the shareholders, just working for your shareholders, but instead considering the community and the environment and your employees, so that in order to become a certified B Corp, you need to get points in the different categories. You can't be great with the community, but mistreating your employees and become a B Corp. And of course you can be audited, you're subject to audit. It's an amazing program. And Bart Houlihan was there as we cooked up Aim2Flourish. And let's talk about the Flourish Prizes, because what happened was that we had so many great stories coming in, and we wanted to go back to what we were midwifing in the first place, was how can we not just find these stories, which is what this army of business school students was doing all over the world, but how can we celebrate them? And so the Flourish Prizes are the 17 Flourish Prizes, one for each of the global goals. And Megan works with this amazing group of jurors to select them, and they're always geographic and representing the different Flourish Prizes. And I want to roll in the first Flourish Prizes celebration that we had. We used these video presentations. See, we were really ahead of our time. We were on video before it was video. Not exactly, but like Ariana Huffington did Global Goal 3 for us about health, because that's what she's passionate about. Vince Cerf did, who's considered the father of the internet, did Global Goal 9, and Paul Pullman did the one that Megan loves the most, Global Goal 12, and he's the CEO of Unilever. So Bart Houlihan did the Cinia story. So let's just take a little look at the Cinia one. It's because we were all there on stage together to celebrate Cinia. And Cinia made these dolls for the Aim2Flourish team that have little Aim2Flourish hats on them. They were made by these disabled workers. So would you like to say a few words?
Good afternoon. Participating in Aim2Flourish has been a great experience for me. Everything began when we got the privilege to interview Mr. Fernando Diez, who is Cinia's CEO. He inspired us about the passion that he does to his work, and especially he inspired me to be a better person in many aspects of my life and to change mental models. I really want to thank Professor Dionne, Luisa, Brenda, and Fer, and my university, UPAEP, for being and supporting us all this time. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Here's my Cinia doll that was given. They gave us each. Remember that? Yeah.
Mine's in my office at Case Western, so not here in my home office. I couldn't get it before this video was taped.
Oh, Megan, please share some of your favorite examples, though, from those.
Oh, no.
early days of the Flourish Prize. I've got one right here. Lucky Iron Fish. That was the one that Ariana Huffington did the Flourish Prize for. It's so cool. This is the iron fish, comes out of the box, and it is a Cambodian story, basically. I had no idea that there was such an iron deficiency. I think do you remember, Megan, 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 Cambodians suffer from iron deficiency. And so this very simple Lucky Iron Fish, and the company is a B Corp, by the way. It is on the box right there, B Corp. The Cambodians can put this little Lucky Iron Fish, this little iron ingot in their rice pot or their soup, and their family gets the iron that they need to be healthy. It's so simple, such a beautiful, and I think we were the first to tell that story. It then landed, it's been told many times since, but we found that story because a student found that story. So Megan, what are some other ones that you love?
Oh, there are so many. It feels, I hate to call out any favorites because it really all of our Flourish Prize winners really have a special place in my heart. In 2017, Roberta said we had an in-person celebration, and we were able to bring students, professors, business leaders that had won from these 17 Flourish Prizes to Cleveland, Ohio to celebrate in person with us. And so that was such an amazing experience for me to meet all of these students and professors and business leaders or entrepreneurs from all over the world. But even since then, our Flourish Prize winners all have a special place in my heart because I get to, tell them that they've won this prize and, help, we have students that then kind of do consulting projects with them and help their organizations so that they can continue to scale their impact and incorporate the global goals into their missions. So it's so hard to choose any favorites.
Well, you're like the mother of Aim2Flourish now, so it is hard to, But I think that you have another example, Megan, of a student, what happens to these students as a result of the Champlain student I'm thinking about.
We have several examples because when students go out and interview these companies, they build these connections with the person that they're interviewing. So there was a student from Champlain College that was offered a board position after their interview. I know of other examples where students were offered jobs based off of their interviews. So, that really speaks to the importance of kind of going in and connecting with somebody and having that great interview, working on those interviewing skills, and then just building that connection, which can then, take you places that you never imagined from a class assignment.
So, Megan, where do you want to take it? What's your vision for where you would like to take Aim2Flourish next?
Well, we just want to see the program continue to grow. So we have over 100 universities, over 140 professors that use this program. I'd love to see it in every university all over the world. This is a great assignment for undergraduates, graduates. We even have a couple high schools that participate, so it can even be used at the high school level. So I'd like to see it continue to grow. I'd like to see more students, getting out there, finding companies, writing stories. And then I'd really like to see, us find new and exciting ways to celebrate our Flourish Prize winners and the students and businesses and professors that have been involved in the creation of those stories, and just really finding new ways to lift up these positive stories of the way that business is changing the world.
Well, you are making it a happening thing. You are giving it wings. And it's just really been fun to watch. So thank you, George Dionne, Megan Buchter, and thank you all of you out there who have been with us tonight to talk about Aim2Flourish. And we wish you a flourishing future.